Welcome back to Self Mastery for Men. This is week 4, lesson 3 for mindset and worldview. And this section is all about changing your beliefs to serve you best. So, how do we do this exactly? We're going to give you a quick overview and recap. To recap what we've done so far, what is mindset exactly? Because everybody talks about mindset, but it's become a buzzword sometimes, hasn't it? So, I want to explain to you specifically what mindset is. Mindset breaks down to 3 things. Number 1 is your thoughts. Number 2 is your beliefs. Number 3 is your values. So you have your thoughts, your beliefs, and your values. For the purposes of this exercise, we're going to do values next week. We've done thoughts already. And so this section, we're going to talk about beliefs. In each of those 3 categories, we said there's 3 subcategories. So for thoughts, you have internal dialogue, you have mental pictures, and metaphors and symbols. Internal dialogue, mental pictures, and metaphors and symbols. For beliefs, we said you have global beliefs, category-specific beliefs, and situational beliefs. And for values, we said you have what you're moving towards, you have what you're moving away from, and your personal rule book for life. We're going to cover values next week. And we've covered thoughts in the past section. We're going to do beliefs this time. So why are beliefs important? Well, at some level, I think we all know that beliefs are important, don't we? But you could be doing all of the right things, all of the right strategies. But if your beliefs are off, you're going to be in for a rough time. You can do all the right strategies in the world, but if you don't actually believe you can be successful, even at the unconscious level, consciously you know you can be successful, but unconsciously you don't really think it's possible, you're going to be fighting against yourself because your beliefs, true or false, control what you sort for. Okay, so what is a belief? A belief is merely an acceptance that something is true or that it exists. So a belief is merely an acceptance that something is true or that it exists. It's something that someone accepts as true or real with trust, faith, and confidence. That's the key words: trust, faith, and confidence. But they're not necessarily true in reality. Many of them could just be assumptions you picked up unconsciously along the way. So if a belief is really useful, then go ahead and keep it. But you want to be able to check and see, do these really work for me? Are they mine? Would I have consciously chosen them in the first place, right? Because most of them are just based on faith, trust, and confidence, and we've gotten them along the way as we've grown up. Make sense so far? So let me ask you, are all beliefs true? Are all beliefs true? Some beliefs can be true, but are all beliefs true? Are there examples of things you used to 100% believe in, by the way, which later on you got some more information or you found some other stuff out and you found out that the belief that you used to hold so tightly either wasn't true or you just no longer believed it? Has that happened? So how does a belief get formed? Let me explain. There's usually an initial event. So there's an initial event and then there's evidence to support it, even if the evidence is flimsy. And then the evidence gets stacked over time and it creates a confirmation bias. So that 7 to 10 bits of information using that unconscious algorithm, right? You start to stack up evidence and now your brain finds it. And then maybe perhaps other people believe what you believe too. So now there's social proof around you and you want to be like the other people around you. And then you make a decision and you decide that the information or the belief is true or real for you. And then it runs on autopilot. So there's an initial event, there's evidence of some kind to support it. You begin stacking the evidence to confirm this. Perhaps other people believe it too, so now it's even further evidence and social proof. And then you decide that it's true, so it's real for you. It becomes real. And then it runs on autopilot. Does that make sense? So let's take a common example that most people are going to be familiar with or have had some form of experience with in the past. So what's something that we used to believe was true, almost universally, depending on how you were raised, and maybe you don't necessarily believe it's true now? Yeah, so let's go with the existence of Santa Claus. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We'll make this really fun. So the initial event is what? Santa Claus exists. The initial event is your parents tell you a story about him. Maybe they read you a Christmas story or a bedtime story, or maybe you saw something on TV about him and you asked a question, you saw him in the mall. And so that's the initial event. Santa Claus is real. You see his picture. And then so the evidence, well, I met him at the mall. I have my picture taken with him. There's photographic proof this guy's real, right? And then what's another piece of evidence? I got presents. You woke up on Christmas morning and there were presents and it said from Santa. That's some pretty good evidence, right? And it had a personal benefit. What's some other evidence? Well, so this was a true story for me. An elf called me on the phone. Yeah. So I got a phone call like right around Christmas, maybe December 20th or maybe December 19th. And an elf called me and it's like, hey, I just want to let you know Santa's packing the sleigh, but we got your list and things are looking pretty good for you. And I'm like, oh man, the elf called me. That's awesome. And what's another piece of evidence? Well, you wake up in the morning and the cookies and the milk are gone. They're eaten. So like that's legit. That's a real piece of evidence, right? And then there's hoof prints in my case. I went outside and they go, look, Jared, there's hoof prints on the roof from the reindeer. And I'm like 6 or 5 and I'm like, oh yeah, there are. I don't even know if I really saw the hoof prints or if they just were like, look, they're there. And I'm like, yeah, they are. I don't know. It's still hazy to this day. But so there's inconclusive evidence on that one. But it's evidence nonetheless, especially for a little kid. And then so social proof, right? Like, is this dude real? So, okay, well, social proof, he must be real because the TV executives love this guy, right? He has TV shows, he has movies, he's got his own soda can on a can of Coca-Cola, right? So this guy's got endorsements, right? So he's got social proof. He's got his own parade down the middle of New York, and all of my friends and family believed in him, or at least they said they did. So, okay, cool. I'm surrounded by people that believe in Santa. The universe apparently believes in Santa. He's got endorsement deals. He's on TV. I have personal evidence. I think there's been a reindeer hoof on the ceiling there or on the roof. I got my picture with him and the guy brings me presents. This guy's real, right? Does that make sense? And it's happened repeatedly through time for years. So it's like, okay, this has really formed my model of reality. As a child, you decide it's true. So Santa is real for you for that period of time. So the meaning you make is Santa is real. Initial event, evidence, social proof, repetition. Make sense? It's true. You made a decision. So that's the common belief. But so are children convinced that he's real? What would happen if you tried to tell a kid that he wasn't? They would call you crazy, wouldn't they? And it's actually like, it's childish, right? But let's put it from a logical perspective, because we're all guys here, right? We like logic. Isn't it actually kind of logical to believe in this based on all of the stacked evidence that they're given, all of the proof that they're given? Everybody's conspiring to tell them this thing, right? So it's totally and wouldn't you want to trust your parents? Doesn't it make sense to trust your parents as the authority? You know, the circle really is the square. So of course, right? Your parents are the experts. So wouldn't a kid be crazy not to believe his parents, the TV, the media, Coca-Cola, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? You got presents on the front porch. All of your friends believe in this guy, right? Like, this is your first instance of gaslighting, by the way. But so anyway, like, doesn't it make sense that this guy would be real, right? Makes sense. But then one day, what happens? It all starts to break down. Because you wake up a little bit from the dream, from your little naiveness of being young, and something happens where something induces doubt in the belief. Either something doesn't quite add up, something doesn't make sense, maybe you get a piece of conflicting evidence, and it's compelling, and you got to put it up against what you believe, and you're like, oh, well, okay, I don't want to believe the compelling evidence that is not real, but I think maybe I should look at this. So you start to objectively look at it instead of just blindly believing this thing, right? And so a belief starts to break down when you induce a little bit of doubt and you're willing to question it. Okay, well, could that be true? What else could my belief mean? What's the evidence for the opposite? Do you see what I mean? And that happened for me. So quite frankly, what happened for me is I was getting a little bit older. And I started to develop a little bit more logic and reasoning. I'm like, wait a minute. It was around Easter time. I stopped believing in Santa because around Easter time, I'm like, my parents are trying to push the Easter bunny on me again. Now I'm a kid, and as a kid, I would believe that too. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm getting a little bit older. Do I really believe there's like a 6-foot tall human-sized bunny giving me like that? That seems a little bit of a stretch, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. If I believe the Easter bunny is real, then that's kind of crazy. But so wait a minute. And I started thinking, right? Like I started like being a little, started logically deducing this in my mind. So I started thinking, well, what else could this mean? Well, okay, I got my picture with this guy, but it could just be a random dude, right? So I've been to multiple malls in a day before. There's multiple guys. It can't all be the same guy. Hey, mom, why is there a different guy? Oh, well, it's not the real Santa. This is just one of his minions, right? It's a guy in a beard. He's just pretending because he can't see all the people. Okay, all right, I'll believe that. I'll buy that. Okay, cool. Okay, well, so I got these presents, but wait a minute. I did see a present at my grandma's house labeled from Santa. So, man, could my mom and dad be hiding stuff in my grandma's closet? Maybe. Wait a minute. Okay, but this elf called me. But wait a minute. It kind of sounded like my Aunt Lorraine. I mean, like, could she possibly call me from a different room or a different number? And yeah, that's possible. That could happen. The cookies and milk get eaten. Well, my parents can't do that. My dad's lactose intolerant. My mom's not lactose intolerant. Oh my God! Wait a minute. That could be it. Well, there's hoof prints on the roof. Well, wait a minute. Could they have been planted there? I'm pretty young. I'm pretty sure I might not have seen that. Could it just been like a post hypnotic suggestion? Hey, Jared, notice the hoof prints on the roof. Yeah, I see them, Mom. I'm a kid. Could that have been like just like an implanted memory, right? Well, possibly. Wait a minute. So now we're building up some compelling evidence here. Well, okay, what about social proof? He's got all these TV shows and movies. Well, yeah, but so does Batman. So does Big Bird. So does, Big Bird gets adopted or whatever. Like Big Bird goes on the road when he becomes Big Dodo. You know what I'm talking about? Oh my God. Well, Follow That Bird. That was the name of the movie. Yeah, so Big Bird's got his own movie, and he's not real. Well, all my friends and family believe in him. Yeah, but the Jewish kid at my school doesn't. My Jewish kid, the Jewish friend that I have at school, he's like, no, man, Santa's not real. So wait, so Santa's not going to everybody's house? And so then, going back to what I told you about before, if I held this belief, what else would I also have to believe? Well, if I believed in Santa, I'd also probably have to believe in a giant human-sized bunny. And to me, even as like an 8-year-old, that seemed insane. But it was pretty much the same thing, wasn't it? So after repetition, you start stacking all this evidence, and it starts to outweigh. You're like, you know what? Yeah, I gotta concede here, man. Your RAS, your reticular activating system, flips, and you see it differently, and you decide that the belief is no longer true, and the belief starts to dissolve. And so the meaning is, you know what? It's obvious looking back at it. Santa Claus isn't real. Santa Claus was a really fun thing that my parents did to make something special. And that makes more sense, right? And then you just kind of accept it and move on. But by the way, does this only happen with Santa? Does this only happen with Santa, or does this happen in other scenarios, right? Because by the way, Santa isn't the only thing your parents tell you about as a kid, is it? No, because Santa, or your parents, they also tell you about life. They also tell you about money. They also tell you about how to get a house, or how to get a mortgage, or how to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or what things mean. You start to pick up on all these meanings from your parents. Money's the root of all evil. Successful people got lucky. Easy come, easy go, all these things, and you start to accept all this stuff. So it's not just Santa that you believed in as a kid. There's a lot of other things that we believed in unconsciously, isn't there? So to break a belief, there's 7 steps. Number 1 is we must identify it. And then number 2 is we have to identify, where did it originate from? Did it come from us, or did it come from somebody else that we just picked up along the way? And then so number 3, we want to take a look at really what evidence do we have to support this belief? Okay, what evidence are we currently operating from to tell us that this belief is true? And then we're going to say, well, what's the opposite of that? So for example, if you grew up and you said, okay, well, I have a belief that money is really difficult to make. Okay, where did that originate from? Well, I wanted to buy a toy, and then my mom was like, nope, money's tight right now. Okay, so then you accepted money's tight, money's hard to make. What evidence do we have to support it? Well, I couldn't buy that thing when I wanted it. And I worked a minimum wage job in high school, and I didn't really make that much money. And it was really hard to pay my bills. Okay, so money was hard to make. That's the evidence, right? But so what's the opposite for this belief? Well, if money is hard to make, if money's tight right now, Well, that would mean that money's pretty easy and I have more than enough. Okay, so now we got to take a look at that. Is that opposite belief true for others, or could it be true for others somewhere else? Is it possible that other people have an experience of life where money is easy and there's always more than enough? Well, yeah, I would say, statistically, that would be a very, very big possibility, wouldn't it? So, okay, if that other belief were true, what evidence would there be or could there be to support it? Oh, well, you know what? Some people, don't work minimum wage jobs. Some people start a business. Some people do this. Some people do that. Maybe you could do, the stock market or cryptocurrency or something, whatever. It's not financial advice. But there's other ways to make money. Some people are really great at saving money and they have more than enough because they saved properly, right? So the opposite can be true, can it? So then what you do is you stack evidence for how the opposite belief can be true, and then you decide if it's worth keeping the old belief or switching it to the new one. And it's based on what serves your highest good. And the way you install it is through repetition, over and over and over again. Does that make sense? So now, another structure of belief. We talked about how there's the initial event, how there's stacked evidence, how you repeat it over time. Another structure of belief is very simply, if blank, then blank, which means blank. So if then means. So I'll give you an example of this one. If, for example, the first event was you asked a girl out in first grade or kindergarten, and she looked at you and she said, I like you as a friend, but not as a boyfriend. That's the first initial event, right? You might make an assumption, if I ask a girl out, then she'll tell me I'm a friend and not a boyfriend, which means I shouldn't ask girls out because no girl likes me. Do you see what happened there? Notice what happened. The mind deleted and distorted and generalized that it was only one girl. And it was only one time. And it created a global belief, all girls, instead of one girl. If I ask a girl out, then she'll tell me I'm a friend, not a boyfriend, which means I should never ask girls out again because no girls would like me. It happens early and it gets stuck in there. Does that make sense? And then your reticular activating system sorts for evidence to prove that it's true. I had a client of mine one time. He goes, I don't believe that I deserve to be successful. I don't believe I deserve to be successful. And I forced him to give me evidence. And I did it very simply. I just said, because? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you don't believe you deserve to be successful because what? And I made him finish the belief, right? Because he adopted a belief, but there was actually no evidence there. He just heard it one time. And so he goes, oh man, let me think. And he's going in his memory bank. He's trying to look for it. And it felt like an hour. You ever have like a period of time when you ask somebody a question and it takes them maybe 10, 20 seconds to answer, but it feels like an hour? That's what this guy felt like. I'm like, what's the proof? Tell me why. You don't believe you deserve to be successful because... And he's like, man, nothing's coming to me right now, because I was asking for him to prove to me his evidence. And he actually didn't have any. He couldn't find anything. He had just generalized it based on something that happened a long time ago, which was really, really flimsy. But you could have these limiting decisions about yourself, about life, based on really flimsy evidence that you've never questioned. Does that make sense? So a limiting belief can also become a limiting decision. If then, which means... So for example, this guy had an experience where if something happens, then that would happen, which means I'm not deserving of success. He lost the if, he lost the then, he lost the everything else. He just kept the meaning, which was I'm not deserving of success. There was nothing else there. And then it dissolved. But then so I had another guy that I was working with. He was having a really hard time with procrastination. He would try to get his work done and he just wouldn't be able to get it started. And I go, what's going on here? And then we went deep. And what we found out was, he goes, there was a period of time when he was maybe 6 years old, maybe a little bit younger. And he said his parents were late to pick him up from his soccer practice. So he was at soccer practice. The practice was over. Everybody went home. And then he was like, his parents were just a little bit late. I guess they got stuck in traffic or something. They didn't abandon him, but something happened. And they got there, they picked him up. Hey, sorry about that. But this child said that it meant that I was abandoned. So his coping mechanism was he made a decision. He goes, if I make myself invisible, then no one can ever abandon me again because they can't see me, right? They can't get to know me, which means I'll never be rejected or abandoned again. You see what happened? Because his parents were late picking him up, and I guess apparently everybody else went home, he felt abandoned, and so his coping mechanism, he made a decision, if I make myself invisible, then no one can ever reject me again because they can't get to know me, which means I'll never be abandoned again. And so notice how this is actually a genius strategy, but it's kind of negative, right? It doesn't serve him. It serves a really positive meaning because he doesn't want to be abandoned. But the definition, this decision affected him for years unconsciously because he made it between the ages of 3 and 7, and it affected him all the way into his 30s because he was attempting to be in the public eye, but he kept self-sabotaging because he goes, I don't want to be abandoned. So this is what can happen. You can make a decision young and it can get stuck in there, okay? So a key component in psychology is this. The map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. What does that even mean? So what that means is two people can be experiencing the same exact moment in time, the same exact moment of time, but they can have a wildly different perception or experience of it, can't they? Two people can even grow up in the same household, and one ends up wildly successful, and can the other end up struggling? Yeah, the same upbringing, the same content in most cases, the same context, but what changed? It was their perceptions, their meaning, how they sorted information. So with that in mind, wouldn't it be useful to just realize that all of your beliefs about life are just something you adopted anyway, right? And if they're not serving you, why can't you just simply change them? So to recap what we've covered here, a belief can be a feeling of certainty you have about something due to stacked evidence and reference experiences. It can be an if-then means based on an initial event, or sometimes it can even be a limiting decision. So for an action item, what I'd like you to do here for this section is we're going to do your best to uncover some limiting decisions and some limiting beliefs for each category. What we want to find out is, do your best to uncover what are your limiting beliefs for your health, for your wealth, for your relationships, for your career, for your personal character, your self-concept. So take a piece of paper and a pen and write out some categories, leaving a couple of lines there. Write out health, wealth, finances, career, relationships, personal character, self-concept. And ask yourself, what do I believe in these areas? And one thing to do, whenever you ask yourself a question with enough intensity, right? Not like, hey man, what do I believe? I'm trying to think. You get into analysis. If you ask, what do I believe about health? Your brain will be like, oh, it's at attention. It'll give you an answer, right? Like if you were at school and your teacher's like, Billy, give me the answer to the question. Oh, it's 7, right? If you do that to yourself, Jared, what do I believe about health? My health is my power, right? And I'll write it out. You know what I mean? So ask yourself questions out loud with intensity. Jared, Bob, Billy, Joe, what do I believe about health? What do I believe about wealth and finances? What do I believe about relationships, right? And you'd be surprised what comes out unconsciously, and just trust it and write it down. Okay? So just do that. Take, 20 minutes and write it down. And then ask yourself, do a self-assessment. Where do I think that I might have got this from originally? Where do I think I might have got this from originally? Is it even mine? Is it useful? What's my evidence to support that? Is that true for everyone? And then what's the opposite of this, or what's something that could be better? What's something that could be useful for me? And is the opposite, is a different belief, is that true, or could it be true for somebody else somewhere? Yes or no? And if it can be, go and find the evidence. What evidence could I stack to prove to myself that the opposite belief is true? And write at least 3 to 5 reasons why. Because once you get 3 to 5 reasons, it starts to build legs to the table. It starts to make it a really stable foundation for the belief, and it starts to stick. So ask yourself, where did I get the belief from originally? But even before that, ask yourself, what do I believe about these categories? and then ask yourself, where did I get it from originally? Is it even mine? What's my evidence to support it? Is it true for everyone? Or could it be untrue? And then what's the opposite or something better? And is the opposite, could that be true somewhere else or for somebody else? And if the answer is yes, what evidence can I use or stack to support and prove the opposite? And come up with at least 3 to 5 reasons. And then make a new decision to choose this as your standard. So make a new decision to choose this new belief as your standard. So in the next section, we're going to talk more practical action steps, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this from the conscious. This writing exercise is the conscious exercise. I'm going to show you how to turn this into your unconscious and make that your new servo mechanism. So the new beliefs become your algorithm. How useful would that be if your new beliefs are your new algorithm where you're sorting for reality? I swear to God, guys, I did this for myself. I changed my life in like a year or less. Okay? So trust me on this. I got your back. We'll be able to turn this into autopilot here in a little bit, and we're going to keep building on itself. So I'll see you guys in the next section.